Hey, sorry for the audio quality on this podcast episode. We thought it'd be better to record us all in one room on a single mic, and that didn't really work out. We also did it in the living room, so the echo was pretty bad. After the Golden Sun podcast, the audio will be much better. I fixed what I could, and yeah, just letting you know that the rest won't sound this bad. Thanks for listening. This is Experience Shared, your gaming book club. Sarah, Mabel, Connie, and Rook pick a game to play, then, after playing it, they get together to discuss the game. If you want to participate, you can join the Discord at bit.ly/EXP disco. There you can join the discussion, recommend games, and even get your review in an episode. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to Experience Shared. We experienced it and now we're sharing it. We all played the same game and now we're here to talk about it. We played Golden Sun for 10 hours. That was the minimum requirement because not all of us were going to like it. And at the end I'll tell you what we're going to play next. That way you can play it and give us your thoughts in the comments. So whether you're here for the recommendation or to give one, you're already in the right place. I'm here with Connie, Mabel, and Rook.
Oh my god, it's me. I'm Bly.
It's me.
The one I keep calling Mabel by accident.
Yes.
Because I'm not used to the new name.
And I'm Connie. I'm here.
I'm Rook. Hi.
Yeah, it's kind of weird talking about video games in a way that is not visual. Like, we can't really show you what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Unless we have some gameplay up.
You have the internet. Go look it up. Google it.
Google it. Use your imagination, actually.
Just play it.
What was the developer? Camelot?
Camelot, which is the ones who made Mario Golf.
Yeah, they made Mario Golf, the RPG.
Camelot.
No, they made every single Mario Golf.
It's a RPG, and the basic story is that you play some kids who have magical powers called Synergy, or Synergy, and they use those magical powers to help save the world after they caused its impending destruction.
They did not cause it.
They kind of caused it.
They did not cause it.
They were in the process of causing it.
They were not causing it.
Alright, well, we'll get to that when we talk about story. For now, let's talk about the graphics. That's the easiest, quickest thing to talk about.
I'd say that the graphics are pretty neat for the time, although I will say in like some areas it's a little rougher when it comes to like...
The world map does not scale well.
Yeah.
So it's screen larger than the Game Boy Advance. It gets very blurry.
It's very blurry and... Yeah, but as far as like the character models go, I think it's pretty...
The character models were neat because the character models are designed in a way that looks like 3D, like the character models in Monsters.
Well, even the game itself, it plays in like a 3D kind of space almost.
Yeah, but the characters themselves, they look like they're 3D models, but the Game Boy Advance can't really do that all that well. Instead, they drew it in a way that looks 3D, and like throughout I was like, how is this not 3D? How is this not 3D? It looks like it was made out of clay.
Well, it's very possible it was.
It's the same principle as like how Guilty Gear Strive and Dragon Ball Z Fighters works.
They're on two different planes.
It's pixel art, but it's like it looks and like it's rendered 3D.
I imagine that took a very long time, and it would explain why the game's only 22 hours instead of 50 like the standard for RPGs. Probably because they spent so long on the character models. What did you think about the graphics, Rook?
They're very unique for, the time
Yeah,
it
they're
came
great
out.
for the time.
Nowadays it's just kind of like, oh,
This is hella blurry.
yeah, this is blurry as fuck. I can't see. I can barely read it.
I liked a lot of the enemy designs, or at least some of the more unique ones.
Yeah, there's definitely some unique looking enemies that I haven't seen before, but there was also a lot of stuff that was just skeletons and zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, the zombie and skeleton sprite art was very good. Like, very detailed. You could tell they put a lot of work into making the sprite work look nice.
I will say some of them felt a little inconsistent though, especially in the boss or the fights, because you'd have ones that look very smooth, and then you have ones that look just like incredibly blurry looking.
Well, that's because the aspect ratio is...
I know. I'm just saying like the ghosts, for example, they're very like smooth and round looking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Like they kind of almost remind me of like the
Sperm.
ghost in like Luigi's Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
How they're like very like round looking and.
Very long.
But then you have like enemies like the apes from like the forest that are like
Big and bulky.
they're big, bulky, and they just look like you're censoring it almost.
It definitely doesn't scale well. I played it on the RG Nano, so I played it on like the smallest possible screen you could, which like really concentrates the pixels, and it does really look good on it. You just have to squint because of how small it is. So it looked really, really good, and I think it's definitely one of those things where it played on original hardware, it would look a lot better because it had the dot matrix kind of screen.
Yep.
And you could see the individual pixels better, and it would just have that filter that blurs it a bit so that it looks better. It's just, once I transferred it over to my PC, it looked really, really bad, blown up. But, you know, that's just going to be anything you play on the Game Boy Advance.
I'm probably Golden Sun's biggest glazer, so
You were the one who suggested it.
I was suggested it. I grew up with it. I like it. They're kind of like almost molded out of putty. That's what it.
Yeah, it looks like clay. I really liked the summons. The pixel art for the
The
summons,
summons were amazing.
really great.
Yeah.
Like, when you summon, like, Prockney or whatever, or, like, Kieran, when
Ramses.
you summon Kieran and it's, like, hopping through the stage on fire and then it just charges through the enemies, it's really good with a good sense of scale.
The
What?
problem I had with that was they're on screen just so for such a very little time, and it's hard to exactly see what they look like, especially Kieran.
Especially when they're moving.
He's,
Well,
like, hopping
Kieran's
around,
the
and it's
quickest,
like-
the quickest one.
Yeah, it's
and-
hard to get like a read on what he actually looks like.
Prockney just
but
looks
he
like
looks
a giant f***ing ice blender. I don't know what Prockney looks like. I've seen the animation like so many times. All I see is the ice go into the head and then a crank, and I'm like, so is it a giant blender? What the fuck is it? I don't really understand it, but whatever.
Neptune's really cool, too. Giant whale that comes out of the ocean.
You know,
I still haven't seen any of these yet.
Let me go grab my hand.
Because I did not get that far because I did not play with a walkthrough, and also I was not able to get some of these summons. The problem is I was having a lot of technical issues with the game.
I wanted to show Connie and Rook what the summons look like.
Oh, he's a big old toad with the little vines.
big old the Mother Earth or whatever it's
Yeah, I
called.
like
And
that one.
then-
I have seen the whale one. I remember watching Rook do this one.
When-
I killed them all.
Wind Summon 4 is just Thor.
It's just Thor.
It's just Thor. It's Thor without it. He's got no shirt on. He's got the helmet on. He comes down from like a big like summoned portal and drops down.
So yeah, like their fake 3D is really good, but so is their sprite work. The sprite work is what the summons use, and those look really good too.
And then the fourth one is the fourth water one is
Tiamat.
the giant blender. Yeah, Tiamat.
It's a big old dragon.
Tiamat's
Yeah,
kind of funny, a little
dragon.
dopey looking.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of
The funny thing is I remember from something Dawn. I can't remember, Dark Dawn or whatever.
Yeah, Dark Dawn's the DS one.
I think Tiamat is like an earlier summon.
that one reminded me of the Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Oh yeah, I think it kind of looks like a baby dragon. Those summons only get cooler the more Jin you get, and that's a lot of different summons.
I do like that because then it incentivizes you to find the gens, which some of them are very hard to find,
All right.
mind you.
Unless you use it, a walkthrough like I did.
No.
And then I was just like, oh, I go here and here. Oh, okay, here it is.
Okay.
Let's move on to story. All right, Mabel, you continue.
You wake up in a town called Bell, which is they're the keepers of, what is it called again?
The Soul
I can't remember.
Sanctum.
Yeah, it's Soul Sanctum.
It's the temple is called Soul Sanctum. There they have all the crystals, all the
gems.
gems. I guess they're not really
Or
gems.
There's
But how-
elemental stones or something.
But how it starts is that a terrible storm has kicked up from the Soul Sanctum, and they don't know why. And as the mountain is shaking and dropping boulders, your mom wakes you up, and the character's name is Isaac, and you're told to make it to safety. And as you go on, you meet Garrett, who's
childhood friend.
who's dragging their possessions along while this whole thing's going on. Already setting off the whole fact that Garrett is stupid, goddamn stupid. And he's like, and the first thing he says is, "Should I leave my possessions here and save my own life?" And you have to be like, yes.
Yeah, that's a big thing with this story, is that you constantly are presented with options for yes or no. You play a silent protagonist, but you're constantly asked what you think, yes or no. And honestly, there's no point in saying no a lot of the time, except...
There is one instance of where saying no changes the outcome of what is going to happen in the story. And that is when you are asked to go and retrieve all the stones from around the world.
Yeah.
If you tell the person no, the game will just end right there, and it'll
Yeah.
take you back to the title screen.
Your standard funny false ending. But you just say yes.
And it'll say, like, in big text, like, and so the world plummeted into chaos.
It's an illusion of choice. You get some other optional dialogue, but in the end, all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah. And so as you go on, it pans to the monks, or I guess they're really just like priests or whatever that are keeping Soul Sanctum safe, and basically they're using their psi energy to hold it back. And it's revealed later that I think this one is like Earth, but because they're all elemented oriented. Like a lot of the clans are all oriented into like one thing, but like there's a lot of different
Vale's not the only town dedicated to protecting a temple.
Protecting a temple, but they don't protect I forget what they're called. I keep forgetting because they're so rarely talked about. Like they're talked about once and then you get it, but like all the stars, they're elemental stars.
Yeah, that's a big problem, is that the universe isn't talked about that much, which really sucks because the universe is interesting. Okay.
I wanted to go back to talking about Garrett being incompetent because his element is fire. And you let him, the idiot, play with fire.
But basically, as this is going on, you and Garrett make it somewhere around to like a side part until you hear two figures over talking to each other, and this is when the main antagonist, I guess, come in
And kick your ass.
and ask you if you were listening to them eavesdropping, and of course you can say yes or no to this,
I just said yes.
which doesn't really matter.
Because they still knock your ass out.
They still knock your ass out.
And
But basically, as you go on, you meet Jenna as well. And Jenna's brother has unfortunately fallen into... A man has fallen into the river. Build a helicopter.
In Lego City.
But basically, Jenna's brother has fallen into the river, which has been kicked up by the storm that's happening
His
from
name
Soul
is
Sanctum.
Felix.
Felix, which you'll come to know later. But
He becomes the main character in the second game.
yes, you're asked to go get help from the lower part of the village, and then you bring up another adept to go do it. But as you go to climb up back to where Jenna is, you are ambushed by Saturos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturos.
And again, I
I
can't
don't-
remember her
I don't
name.
know
She
the
has
other-
such a weird name. It's spelled
Melanoe or something like that.
Yeah.
Mela something.
Melodot.
It doesn't help
That's
the
what-
antagonist names are like so weird because
And
Except
they're
for-
rarely mentioned, too.
And they're
Except for
rarely
the
mentioned.
other two, it was just Alex and Felix, and it's like, oh, okay.
But during the conversation that you're eavesdropping on from Saturos and
Check.
whatever name.
Minilababa, you
Milabub.
overhear that they were in Soul Sanctum.
Which makes you think that they're the one who caused this whole...
Yeah.
And they're
debate
talking
for the
about
beginning.
how they didn't know that was going to happen, and now everything that they've done has gone awry. Eventually, they come to knock you out, and you come to, and it shows that Jenna's brother has unfortunately been swept away in the storm by
As
the
well
boulder
as their family.
by the priests that were holding back the boulder. The boulder came down and destroyed like Jenna's house and stuff like that. So Jenna's brother is gone,
As well
assumed
as their
dead,
parents.
and all of Jenna's family as well,
Family, and also your father.
and your father.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and your-
one of them had to die.
Yeah, the
Okay.
main character's
And
father
then
dies too.
skip ahead to the end of the temple. We don't need to talk about every little thing that happens in between there because there's a lot of,
There's a lot
But
of stuff
basically, now after 2 years,
3 years.
it was a year later.
a year later, that's right.
I thought it was 3 years.
It was
No,
1 year
you're-
later.
You're like 16, and in the game it's like 17, so it's like a year. Kraden wants you to meet up for alchemy training. Kraden is the alchemist of Vale, and he wants to go up into Soul Sanctum to talk about alchemy and stuff like that. And basically, as you go through the temple, you learn what everything is there, and eventually Dip-Dop-Do solve all the obligatory puzzles and get to
Mostly just stuff to teach you how to play.
the sanctum that holds all the elemental stars. And then Kraden wants you to retrieve them. And big shock though, before then, Kraden was talking to main antagonists and wanted Kraden to go and let them into Soul Sanctum, but he wouldn't do anything. He didn't want them to go in there, but they just followed you anyways, and so that's why they're there now. And they ask you to retrieve the rest of the stars after you grab the first one, which is like the Mars star. Basically, they want all the stars to light the lighthouses, which were are points of synergy for all of the
world.
individual adept clans, which is the Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus.
They say lighthouses, but it's not like your typical lighthouse. It's very much a tower, but at the top of the tower is like a concentration or orb of like elemental energy that works as like a beacon. So it's like a lighthouse, but it's woo-woo fantasy lighthouse.
But here comes the thing. The shocker is the reason they followed you there is because, again, they revealed that they fucked something up, and that's what caused the whole hullabaloo in the year prior, is that they fucked it up, they fucked one of the puzzles up, and everything went awry.
Oh, you think they messed up the sun and the moon puzzle?
Yes, because Crayon talks about it and says if we fuck it up, something bad will happen.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what they were talking about in the year prior. And then they just follow you there, and they were like, well, good thing you solved that thing. Now we don't have to worry about it. But here comes the kicker, is that, I don't know, some big Geo dude, I don't know who the fuck he is.
He's a guardian.
He's some guardian of the elemental stars, but he's been using the energy from the elemental stars to keep everything in check there. But now since one of them has been removed, he can't do anything about it.
I'm guessing he's like a god or whatever, because he teleports you around and stuff like that. But he also seems very okay with things falling apart, as if he just knew it was going to happen. He seemed like he had already long come to terms with it.
Since all the stars are gone from Soul Sanctum, he can't do anything but have the Soul Sanctum erupt. What ends up happening is once they all take the crystals, i.e. You retrieve them, and then some other adept comes along and snatches from you. So it's not just Sataros and
What's her face?
Belinda Blinked. I don't know her name, but lady with very long hair. There's another adept along with him, and surprise, surprise,
it's Felix.
Felix comes around the corner as well.
He wasn't dead this whole time.
He wasn't dead this whole time.
He was saved by Sataros, and he owes them a life
Blinked.
debt.
Before we get any further in this, I want to talk about the city of Vale and its layout.
Yeah, it's got a garbage layout.
It is the worst designed starter town I have ever seen, and worst designed town in general.
I get the point of it. It's supposed to be a village built into the side of a mountain, and in that sense, they nailed it. In terms of gameplay, terrible.
They're all just having a rough moment because they're like, oh, I'm getting blocked by boulders. Where do I go now?
It's not even just that.
It's not the boulders.
I went back to the town recently, and I knew where I was going still, and I was like, yeah, this town really just sucks, and I was happy that I was gone when I was done.
It's because it, like, darts up in, like, you go down to go around, essentially, but then it comes back around again, and then you can sometimes just get super lost.
And you can go up the wrong way sometimes, and then you're stuck.
And then there's
go back around.
There's also some paths that are not, like, trodden. Like, it doesn't have an actual path, but you have to walk behind trees to get to a place.
Right, you're talking about the one tree where you have to get the Soul Sanctum.
Well, no, like, I'm talking about, like, buildings in general.
That's also bad, though. Like, if the Soul Sanctum's as important as it is, why doesn't it have, like, a stone staircase leading up to it?
Speaking of staircases...
It has, like, a staircase.
Yeah, but why doesn't it go into the town?
I don't know, because no one's supposed to go in there anyways. But also, y'all missed it anyways.
Okay.
They said Soul Sanctum, and then they pointed the camera with the priest up there, and you're just like...
No, I know where it was.
But if we missed it as adults, how much harder is that as a kid?
I knew where it was.
Listen,
the problem was getting up there.
Speaking of staircases, that first bit where you're, like, running around trying to get out of, like, the way when they're like, a boulder's coming. I got stuck there for, like, 3 minutes because I was like...
Every time you found a new way, new boulder.
No, yeah, exactly. And it's like...
The boulders were trying to guide you, but then it would show up.
No, that's not it. I couldn't figure out where the fucking stairs were.
Oh, you couldn't find the stairs?
Because they're the same color as the background. And it's like, I was stuck there for 3 minutes, running around in a circle, trying to figure out where the to go.
I didn't have a problem finding them,
and then I'm like, there's stairs! Why didn't they make those a different color? That's bad game design.
They could stand out a little better. They could have made them stone colored or
It's
something.
horrible.
It's just the village doesn't feel very lived in because of how everything is. It feels like if a town was lived in like that, they would make it a lot easier to get around in.
Well, I mean, it's all like cottages and stuff like
The
that.
bottom town part, I like just fine. Where the shop and stuff is, that's fine. But after that, it just doesn't have a natural flow. It doesn't naturally guide you.
The people who got...
do.
It's like someone took the water temple.
Because you barely go back.
Yeah, you don't spend long there. After the 2-hour long beginning, you don't go back.
Hour long.
It was
opening.
2 hours of an opener in the town of Vale.
Even Pokemon Sun and Moon wasn't that long. It was like an hour tops.
Sword and Shield wasn't that long, and Sword and Shield
Sword and Shield.
Not Sword and Shield. Scarlet and Violet
was pretty long.
They had long ones. I think it was an hour to get past the intro, and if that was it, mashing A.
Yeah,
so,
if you want to read the story and actually understand what's happening, and want to actually read through it, 2 hours long. If you're just mashing it because you're like, I don't care, still like an hour max.
And
it's insane.
Now that you've explained the story, I understand the significance of the water and rain part, and like that, I was like, that doesn't seem all that important, other than setting up Felix. But talking about how it was caused by the temple, that makes me go, okay, that makes a little more sense as to why they spent so long on it. At the same time, I wish it was handled a little bit differently. It's like people say, put your most entertaining part of your game at the beginning so that you hook players. That wasn't... Golden Sun was not that.
Well, it's weird because it still gives you like a little bit of combat in the beginning of it. Like it like sprinkles like 2 mushrooms in before like you get through the rest of it because like.
But the XP, the value that they give for those enemies is so low that it's not worthwhile to do it either. Those enemies just serve as further hindrance, keeping you from finishing that opening section. And it's 2 hours for that part of the tutorial, and then another hour before you get real true freedom.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
I feel like it would have been much better if the town was just designed better. Like
more, a Pokemon town.
Like more straight,
Listen,
like going
Pokemon
up.
fan, not everything can be Pokemon.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a better designed town. There needs to be a clear way in and a clear way out.
Or signs to tell you where to go.
Done?
We're done with the town
part. Are you done
part.
putting your I hate Vale sign down? Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes, that was a whole page in my book. About how much I hate Vale.
Because we still have more story to go. Well, now that everything has been snatched from us, Jenna, our friend, Cradden, who's like a 50-year-old man, for some reason we care about, the antagonists leave with our friends and leave us one little measly star, the Mars star.
It's the one they didn't take from us because the whole place...
Because they got separated from us.
Yeah, they got separated from the whole shit coming down.
And again, not in the shape of a star. Like a little orb.
They're like orbs, yeah.
It's like an orb. It's like, why they call it a star? Why not just call it the orb?
My question is why does it need to be an item in our inventory?
Yeah. Why does it take up space in the inventory?
There's limited item inventory, and it takes up a spot.
It takes up a spot.
You can't equip it. You can't do anything with it.
The inventory system is terrible, too. Each character has their own inventory page with limited slots. You can only hold like 15 items per character, and that includes their equipment.
Like what they're wearing.
Everything stacks, so it's like literally fine. If you're carrying around a bunch of nuts and vials, you're not using the equipment right, because you shouldn't be using your psi energy all the time.
Weapon, hat, arms, outfit, boots. That's 5 slots taken up already.
Yes.
And it's like 10 total.
And if you aren't using
Mars
it, you better sell it.
healing item. And then the bonus equipment, which is the accessory that usually lets them equip something. That's 8 slots.
Well,
like rings that give you the healing spell or like the lift spell.
I can kind of understand the equipment system.
It's different for no reason, though.
Well, because it's like, you have limited equipment when you're going somewhere, right?
Yeah, but it's not
you're
going
not
for a harder
taking your
game.
whole backpack with you, when you're going adventuring, like in the beginning.
Again,
where
it is like literally not that big deal.
No, it's not a big deal. It's just there's been times where it gets annoying.
Like I said, the system is, could you stand? Do you give us more slots or take out stuff that we don't need? Yeah.
Like a
also,
storage.
one big page instead of having to flip through them and then go up and down.
It's because if the character goes down, you can't do anything with the character. So
yeah, and it's trying. I get that it's trying to be more hardcore in that sense, but at the same time, Golden Sun is not a hardcore game. Connie was doing just fine. It was still easy for her, and she had half the gin that I had.
Yeah, I was
Well,
like blinded
again.
in combat.
Again, because we're not there yet.
Yeah,
We're still on story.
we're
God
still
damn
on
it!
story.
Can I get to the story? All right.
Sorry, I just remembered the Mercury Star thing, and I just remembered it was an item.
Yes,
here.
but we are left with one little Mercury star,
Mars Star.
Mars star, actually, yeah. And then we are pulled out of Soul Sanctum via Rock God. I will call him Rock God because we don't know his name.
They don't name him.
They don't name him. He is
Just
Rock
the
God.
entity.
The Watcher. He's got one big
That's what I
eyeball.
called him,
Yeah,
the Watcher.
The Watcher. We are whisked away from the Watcher outside of Soul Sanctum, and we are told that we don't have long. That he's gonna try to hold it the best he can, but basically that does not stop the chaos from happening. And now we are tasked with gathering the stars and trying to stop Sadaros and the others from lighting the lighthouses. And that is where we leave off in Vale.
So the rest of the story is spent you going town to town, basically just seeing what's going on.
Looking for leads.
Well, how about we just go and talk about what we're gonna do, and then when we get to like the towns, what we're gonna do? Because we're gonna end up talking about like how
I'm just
we've
saying,
done.
let's just wrap up the whole thing as a whole, because they're gonna want to play it on their own too. They might want to play it on their own too.
And we
And
can't
we didn't-
sit here and describe
Every single
20-hour story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
took
didn't
like
get through-
20 minutes to
I've
just-
already gone through like most of the game already. Basically, you get out of Vale and you're introduced to your very first little djinn.
Oh, yeah, the Gen.
And the djinn is another thing. It's interesting.
Yeah,
The-
we should talk about the gin system.
The
and how
Okay,
it works.
system's a little confusing.
Now we can get into combat and stuff.
Yeah, we
and that's
can-
where I wanted to go off.
Okay.
Segue into combat.
But y'all have been monotyping, where I have been doing dual typing for each one.
I've been dual typing as well.
Same.
I don't see the reason
You
to
get
not
different.
monotype.
You get
Besides,
different types.
You get a different.
I haven't been
attacks.
able to dual type because I haven't had enough Gen to dual type.
The stats are better when you monotype.
Kind of.
Isaac had 500 HP when I had the thing on. Everyone else had 200.
Yeah, because when you monotype the stats that build up for them, because like a lot of them all give different type. I think
they all have a preference for an element too.
well, yeah, because they're adepts of each of the elements. Isaac is Earth adept. Garrett is fire adept,
Ivan,
is wind, and then
Mia,
water. But you can get good psi energy out of by not monotyping. If you monotype, you can get good ones, but it takes a while to get to the good ones. Or you can dual type, do three typing.
What I did was I did all but the last one, and then I put water gin on each of the characters, and then the other ones would be their main elements, except for the fourth person who would have to use a mixture.
You in total at the very end of it, you will have 7 for each character.
If you find them all, there's a lot of them that are just hard to find. So let's talk about the actual gin system. The way the gin system works is it's basically your class features. Rather than like in Final Fantasy where you get to choose a variety of jobs and then your jobs dictate your spells and stuff, you instead have djinn of different elements, and the elements dictate your abilities. The djinn dictate your abilities. So
You're like psi energy.
certain characters have things that they start out with. Like Mia starts with Ply, which is a very good healing spell. And Garrett starts with a lot of fire spells. Ivan starts with a lot of AoE spells. And Isaac starts with a myriad of things. He's a mix of things. He does a lot of things.
Well, he starts with cure, and then move, and then retreat, which,
He's your all-rounder. He's your
should we
utility
talk
guy.
about psi energy first, or should we talk about Gen?
We
Because
should talk about that combat first.
Well, the way the game introduces it to us, they introduce psi energy to us first.
Yes.
So let's talk about psi energy first. So go ahead, talk about psi energy.
Okay, well, the gimmick of this game is little puzzles. The gimmick of it is that instead of like regular puzzles, like in sometimes like in RPGs where like you take an item and get like a little key and unlock doors, like now you have these weird abilities that you have to use in certain situations to get you to places.
To influence the world.
To say like you're introduced to it in the like very beginning after the year skip, where you can move like a little boulder or a rock pillar and move it with your move psi energy. And then it teaches you how to do that through Soul Sanctum.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ones that function differently. Move is used to move an object up to 1 square away from you, left, right, forward, and backwards. And it slides them like a slide puzzle, like the push block puzzles in the strength puzzles in Pokemon. And then there's the lift puzzle, the lift one that physically lifts an object like a boulder up so that you can climb under it. And then there's reveal, which shows hidden objects and
Passages.
And then there's, what was the other one?
Read mind.
There's read mind, where you can read the minds of other people.
There's Read Mind, Whirlwind, Douse, and Frost, and Growth.
I still have not figured out what Douse does.
Douse makes it so you can put like a little puddle.
Okay.
Oh, it creates a puddle, and
it creates a puddle, and then you can
use
you can
frost
to
solidify it into a pillar.
Because if you didn't have Douse, one of the Djinn you can get earlier in Xian or Xian. You have to get an NPC in the right position, talk to her, and then she drops the water she's carrying, and then you can use frost on it.
Yeah.
But if you have Douse, actually, I think Douse might be to douse fires.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it does.
That's one of the things I think Rook is going to talk about. How are we supposed to know this shit?
How are you supposed to know that?
I don't know.
To get that Djinn. How was anyone supposed to know that?
There's a lot of
without
guessing.
Someone...
There is a lot of weird guessing. What do you want? This isn't a classroom.
Okay.
Put your hand down.
That one that you're talking about, I actually found out on my own.
I had to look up a walkthrough because I'm like, how the f*** do I get that thing?
I found out because I saw the woman walking. I talked to her and I noticed that she dropped the puddle on the floor. I'm like, holy shit, that's how I can get that Djinn.
Who was it that had a hard time finding that passage because they didn't know to use Whirlwind on the leaves?
That was Rook.
Me.
Okay.
Right now.
Ivan shows you earlier on a boulder where he uses Whirlwind on it and it clears the leaves off the boulder.
I guess. I f***ing guess.
Well, okay, here's the thing. With the psi energies, there are world energies, psi energies that you use to solve the puzzles, and then you have your
combat
ones. And so they're all different. But the funny thing is Douse and Frost and Whirlwind happen to also be combat psi energies.
So you might not think to use them as world ones at first because you typically would use Frost in combat or Whirlwind in combat.
But then they're
also expensive.
They're not really that expensive because
Whirlwind's 8.
Whirlwind may be 8, but also I think it dumbs the cost down for, when you use it in the world. Also, you barely use it. Like, it is probably the least used.
Yeah. I've used it twice.
Yeah.
Then why do they even have us use it?
I don't know.
Just to keep your attention,
Because I think what happens is when you loop around back to Lumpa after getting through Xian and the desert, you'll probably end up using it more because
there will be other things you can go back and figure out But
the thing is when you use those psi energies in the things that are interactable with psi energy stand out. Like you can see them in like when it gets that weird background shimmer and like they stay their standard color.
They have like color pop.
Yeah, they stay their standard color and the world goes to like dark blue or stuff while you're using the psi energies.
No, Whirlwind costs 5.
Yeah, but here's the thing, it doesn't really matter because as you use it, they had cost to them, but they're so little cost that it doesn't matter, and it also doesn't matter because you regen
PP as you walk.
Psi energy points as you walk.
Connie was having an issue where she completely skipped like a section that I went to. And she's like, I didn't actually have to go there.
What
I
section?
could just go here. The temple.
Yeah, that can happen. That happens in multiple places.
Yeah. So it's like...
There is freedom.
Strike, I don't know what strike is used for. I think strike...
It's used to knock things over.
No,
yeah.
I'm talking about, like, why is that possible? That shouldn't be possible, because what if she needs something from there to continue the story? And then she's just, like, going off on her own, and she thinks she's doing the right thing, and then she stops, and she's like, what the f*** do I do now?
Well, here's the thing. Strike is the only thing that causes, like, a second... I don't know, because you need strike to hit the tree thing in Xian, so the master comes out and goes, "What happened?"
Yeah.
It starts the whole dialogue with Frizu, Faiju or something. Faiju, the little girl that goes, oh, Hisu's gone. And then
if you need it for that specifically in order to initiate that point, that makes Rook's thing all the more important, because it should have been harder to get through the forest then without the ability, because
you can bumble through the forest. You can bumble through it, but if you strike the trees where the little monkey dude hides in,
the monkey tells you where to go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what you need to strike for.
Oh.
But again, if she can do that without having to get it, what's the point?
I think it's because they wanted to make it kind of hard, but then they also couldn't do like a Legend of Zelda Lost Woods kind of thing.
Now it makes it even harder for her, because she would have to go back through the forest.
Yeah, and she has to remember how to get back through. And like she's saying,
I actually can't go back.
She can't go back. So then.
You can't go back?
She soft-locked herself because the game didn't make this mandatory thing mandatory.
She's still in the desert, and she's going to... You don't...
There comes a point where you could actually go all the way back around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can...
And then I can grab those things.
But, again, Strike is a kind of thing that only sets up like a little dialogue, and then... I think it still happens. I think it overrides... Because she's gone through Master Hama and gotten reveal, haven't you?
Yes, I have reveal.
This would have been the perfect moment, though, for something to happen, like a character hurting themselves and wanting to visit a town.
Faiju?
Did Faiju, the girl with the purple hair, she's like, yeah, so it just overrid it. She just didn't even talk.
Okay, so the puzzles are good. The good applications of it are really good, but sometimes it's really puzzling, and it feels like they were trying to squeeze in as many ideas as they could to justify having this system. The ones that work really well is, like, of course, Move and Reveal, and Mind Read is really funny because of the context that it gives you.
I actually have not used Mind Read since
I've used it twice, and it's saved my ass both times.
It's funny because you can mind read a dog. And
I have used it for that.
You can mind read the trees that got turned into people.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, really?
I didn't think to use it for that.
I did not think to do that.
Another thing is the game is also open. Speaking about the open-endedness of this game, is that since she ignored Strike, didn't grab it or anything like that, you also don't have to go back to Tret and... Well, actually, no, you do.
I think you have to.
Yeah, you do have to go to... So it's just weird, but, like, you don't have to go to Tret. You can go straight to...
Mercury Lighthouse.
And then
visit them after.
Yeah.
And that's what speedrunners do. They go to Mercury Lighthouse
So
first.
it's kind of, like, weird.
And then I guess, I'm like, what's the point of it if it's like... You don't have to go here, but you probably should.
You can bumble your way to places.
And that's another thing, is when Rook was exploring Mercury Lighthouse, Rook went to Mercury Lighthouse and then went all the way to Tret and found out that Tret needed the Water of Life and didn't know that Tret needed the Water of Life.
They didn't make that explicitly clear.
There's a chest
and so I'm like,
you grab that has the water.
Yeah.
No,
there's
it has a
chest
vial.
in the town before you go to the lighthouse that you need to get the water.
You just need a vial.
And you're supposed to find out that you have to go there and get that vial.
And Rook's not the only person to have this problem. I have seen comments on the walkthrough videos saying, like, how were we supposed to know that we were going to need that bottle and the Water of Life? I thought it was obvious.
I figured it out myself.
Because they mention in the story and stuff like that, but I can see how someone could miss it. Because it is just a bottle and a chest off to the side. No one ever gives you the bottle, or no one ever says you need a bottle until you go to interact with the water. But if you don't know you need that, then you don't ever interact with the water.
I think it's just common knowledge. It's like, well, how am I going to take the water to the thing? Oh, it's given me an empty bottle before
But some people don't see the chest. Or some people don't think to check it.
Like, some people...
You should always check the chest. There's always good shit in the chest.
That's just it. If I didn't know if I wasn't reading the walkthrough, I wouldn't have known the chest was there. And I wouldn't have gone up there. Because...
It is off in the corner.
It's off in some random house corner. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you're not as exploratory as I usually am, I like to go around and explore every nook and cranny just to see what's there. If you're not one to do that, you could miss it completely.
And then honestly, I just don't think Golden Sun's the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably the wrong game for you.
It's
a
little archaic in some parts.
We are literally playing a game that is in the same decade as Pokemon, which had you do the same goddamn thing.
It's a little
Not
different though because
really.
Yeah, it does.
Golden Sun is a lot more like Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior in how it handles things.
Which with like
it's a little bold.
The discs in Pokemon, the moves, where it has you
TMs,
learn
yeah.
the TMs to
The
learn to go and explore
It
stuff.
tells you, though, in game, oh, you need this, so you have to go and find it. It's not, oh, I don't know how to help him.
Important items are never on the ground in Pokemon.
No.
Well, the chest is in Grandma's, the grandparents' house, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's in the grandparents' house.
So,
Which
yeah.
is one of the places you have to go.
But that goes to my other issue, is the game never really tells you what to do or where to go a lot of the times, which I guess was for some people, but that I've gotten into the habit now of I walk into a town and I talk to every single person that I see to figure out what I'm supposed to do, and then I go do it, and that's a little annoying.
Yeah, it's forcing you to do that.
There's so many cutscenes, but there's not cutscenes for the things that matter.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I did not, as a kid, I did not get past Tret. I did not get past Tret because, again, I lost my, I moved a lot, so I lost my stuff. So I never got to play it ever again.
It's a game that's ahead of its time, but in many regards, it's behind in a lot of stuff.
But as I've played it in emulator for it again, I got all the way to the desert last time I played it, and then now I'm past the desert.
This is also during a time when walkthroughs weren't around, but also you have... This is where the whole playground logic comes in. You play this game, you don't know where you're going, and then you you talk to your friends.
So play it like we did, where we all had all of us together, and we could ask each other these things. The playground guide.
Yes, and I think that's the best way to experience these kind of RPG games, because then you have that knowledge of where to find stuff without explicitly spoiling it for you. You just have rumors.
But because this was before walkthroughs were readily available, that's also what's really kind of annoying, because it really does feel like that it was they intentionally obfuscated things and made things difficult so that they could sell those Prima guides.
And yeah, that's a whole thing too.
Probably. But we're also getting sidetracked because we were supposed to talk about combat.
All right, combat. So the way combat works is it's your standard turn-based RPG thing. There's no ATB or anything like that. There's
ATB?
active time battle.
Active time battle.
It's
the Final
a gauge.
Fantasy VI thing.
It's a gauge thing where people's gauges fill and then they can act, and the gauges fill based off the character's speed.
I have no idea what
Yeah, I don't like it either. I turned it off.
Your character acts as their agility. So whenever they act is how fast the character is, i.e. the agility stat.
So
turn.
You'll pick your moves for all your characters, and then they'll activate their moves in the order of whoever has the highest agility, including the enemies. So you don't get to interject on enemies' attacks. You don't get to plan ahead like you would in something like Slay the Spire. Or
Slay the Spire's card-based. It always goes you and then enemy.
Or the more recent Final Fantasies where they had those turn order bars.
But this game is the first. I think what you could sum this game up is desert, before desert, after desert.
Yeah, the game is entirely different
BD
after desert.
80, and because the
desert changes you.
The desert will not hold your hand. The desert will, if you do not get those goddamn oases, you are absolutely shit out of luck.
And even worse, if you save in a spot that's in the oasis, and it's possible to soft lock yourself with the oasis.
Wait, really?
Because the game overs you, right, when you die?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It gives you a full game over back to title screen.
Yeah.
So it's possible to save in a place where you can't easily get to an oasis and then die because of it. So it's possible to soft lock yourself with the desert.
Because basically,
can you not use retreat?
I mean, you could use retreat.
You could use retreat,
but
probably.
it will take you all the way back, and you would have to, it's that simple, just retreat and then
retreat,
do that. But,
that's what it's for.
But the thing is the funny thing is none of the bosses beforehand have had big, huge mechanics like the desert boss, because
the bosses are a cakewalk. There's enemies in the environment that are harder than the bosses before the desert.
I think the apes are the worst ones.
The apes are
pretty nasty.
The frequency of the random encounters.
Yeah, there's so many random encounters.
I do want to, even though I'm a glazer of this game,
the encounters
oh my god, the encounters are bad.
The encounter rate is so high.
I I pissed myself crying with joy when I got a void on Isaac. I was like, oh my god.
If I could equate it to anything, it's like the Zubats in Zubat Cave. Or Mount Moon Cave.
Rook was saying numerous times how much it was just Zubat Cave.
This is Zubat Cave over and over and over again, and it's like you can't take a step without running into something. And it's like...
And it's funny because later on, the encounter rate goes down.
The encounter rate doesn't really go down. It picks back up. It just gets easier to get through them because in the beginning of the game, when you go through so many enemies, and like the first time you get a group of enemies, you're kind of forced to just like hit them with little shit.
You know what they should have done?
But again, they're probably doing this to load you up for bosses because they give you the gen, they give you good psi energies to start with, like Quake and stuff like that.
But the game is a cakewalk. Like, you were what, 5 levels lower than me at the same location?
I was level 11, yeah.
And I was level 15?
I will say, if the encounters this is what I did when I had, like, a lot of encounters. If there was more than 3 enemies, I'd completely just flee.
If you could flee.
If I could flee.
If you could flee, that's a coin flip.
Based off agility as well with that.
What they should have done was they should have made encounters less frequent, but increase how much XP they give.
I would have been okay with that.
I mean, it is. They give you huge XP when you kill like a big party. They give you like at max, like when you're at like Alton Peak and you kill like 3 enemies, it's like 700 experience, like right there.
But what I did in order to deal with the combat a lot easier was I started taking my Jin, putting them on standby mode, and then summoning them and using the big summon attacks at the start of the fights to get through the fights quicker. That would take the fights and turn it down into a one-turn affair, which would bring us into Jin stuff, but we're not quite done with combat yet. Combat is pretty standard. It's just like Final Fantasy. It's just your standard turn-based thing. People with higher speed act first. Moves are based off of what Jin you have equipped, because what Jin you have equipped affect your character's class, which affects what abilities they have at their level.
Well, actually, it doesn't. It depends on what you do, because if you have them at standby, they have their base.
I know, but in general, equipping more Jin makes the character more powerful.
I mean, yeah, kind of. I think the Jin in more of a standpoint, like I think the bonuses they get off of them are kind of...
Yeah, I put them all on standby, which means my stats are at the constant lowest all the time, and I don't really feel less powerful because I always just end up using it to summon. I feel like the stats don't matter that much.
I think they're better used as what they are, is the skills that they bring. Because, I mean, the reason I've had a cakewalk is because half the time I spam all the boosts, and then by the time I have all the boosts, I have the summons, and then the boss does, like, no damage to me, and then I just...
Well, with the summoning trick I do, I usually beat the boss by the second or third turn. So I don't really need all those boosts. I just go in with all my Jin on standby.
Well, and again, I can't say anything for like after the whole thing because
we kind of stopped around the turning point.
I stopped after 80. Rook hasn't stopped after 80 or stopped BD.
Yeah, before Desert.
And Connie's stopped after 80.
There's a big issue with wandering and backtracking in the game. There's so many times where you backtrack and you just wander and stuff like that, and it makes the high combat frequency all that much more annoying. So I can definitely see why Rook didn't like the beginning part, because it's so much walking. It's so much walking, and it's so high encounter rate. It's really genuinely annoying to use the overworld.
And God forbid if you go someplace you're not supposed to, you're like, oops, I wasn't supposed to go here. I have to go back. And then it's like, oh.
Yeah, there was a lot of points on the world map where the direction that you would go would just lead to nothing. And then so you had to go back again and figure out the right way.
I think the very beginning of it is very weird. With like, it's kind of like, oh, you go to Vault and then you're like, why am I involved? And then like you get it kind of like corn, like gives you like little corn pellets to follow, and then after like Vault, it's kind of like, oh shit, where do I go?
Yeah, that's
kind of like the issue. But then like
y'all haven't been to Vault Cave yet, though. You go back to Vale and you pick up a Jupiter Gin there, I believe, and then you leave, and then after that you just don't know what to do for a while.
Well, Vault, you pick up a Venus.
Venus?
Yeah, you go back to Vault, and then you can use Reveal to reveal a little thing where you can go in.
I was pretty sure it was a Jupiter one, because it hops down and it runs around those blocks, and you have to use Halt on it to catch it.
Oh, that's not Vault. Bald is the bandit. Is where you catch the bandits who steal all those stuff.
The game has way too much backtracking, and it's only 22 hours long. It's the shortest Golden Sun in the series by half. It's 50% shorter than the rest of the Golden Sun series, and it's like 50% backtracking. It does not need to have that much backtracking. They were clearly spending so much time on making the models that they didn't have much time for making the actual game, because there's just so many backtracking
It could be
points.
that they were just trying to pad it, too.
Yeah, and even with the unnecessary padding, it's still only 22 hours.
Oh, it's going to be a doozy if you ever play Lost Age, because guess what?
Yeah, I know, it's a lot longer. I played Lost Age.
I felt like Lost Age, we're going to need like 2 weeks for that.
But guess what you can do? Guess what you can do in Lost Age?
There's an airship, isn't there?
You can change over your gin.
Oh yeah, you can bring your Jin in from the last game into the second one. She's talking to her Tamagotchi.
Or
No, she's not. She's talking to Sarah.
But, yeah, so the combat, we talked about it. It's very standard, very Final Fantasy.
And the enemies
it's
do not
flashy.
have health bars.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
The enemies don't have health bars either. I feel like that should just be said too. You kind of have to guess how much
They don't usually in JRPGs. In
Yeah.
JRPGs, you usually get an ability like Scan or Libra, and you use that on the enemy to see their stats.
Okay, well, I didn't know that's a
Do
thing.
we have that in this game?
No.
No.
That's what
No.
I'm saying.
But most of the stuff, like, if you're having, like, summoning level 4 summons, at that point, you're doing, like, well over, like, 400 damage.
Yeah, you don't really need to worry about the stats if you do the summoning thing I was doing.
Oh.
So, the Jin system. The Jin system is you get the Jin, you equip them to the characters, and depending on the ones you have equipped and how many you have equipped, it changes their stats. If you monotype, it's going to result in your characters having very high stats. But if you multi-type, you're going to have a wider range of abilities on your characters and have access to things that you wouldn't typically have access to. Like, there's an ability called Astral, I believe, or Astra.
Astral. Yeah.
And if you have access to that ability, it is a very strong single-target move that rains stars down on the opponent. And you only get access to it if you have a combination of Jin that really results in that.
It's fire and wind.
Yeah.
I get it. But,
So-
I mean, it's like a little fun system to play around. Like, you can just, like, match
Yeah.
and see what you get.
But it's also entirely optional.
Yeah, you can just monotype.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't too bad, but I think, like, it's more fun to...
It defeats the point of the system, though. If it's so inconsequential that we can just ignore it the whole time and still beat the game, it doesn't speak to how good the game is designed. It speaks to how poorly the Jin system is designed.
I think what it is, like, if you're struggling, play through the game, and you're like, I don't want to do I don't want to grind.
And
I think it's like that.
complicated to someone who doesn't know it. And you don't really get a chance to explore it until you're late in the game.
Well, yeah, because you have 4. It's kind of, well, I think
It
it,
doesn't
just
get
makes
interesting until AD.
I think it makes the game where, like, oh, I'm getting little Jin. Look at my little Jin. He's so pretty and precious. He also gives me this.
I wish they looked different from each other, too.
Yeah.
So that I could have a favorite Jin.
I think they do look different. I think there are little incremental things. They look more different.
Let me put a bow on my
Dark
Jupiter
Dawn.
Jin.
They look different in Dark Dawn. I know that for sure. They have characteristic.
They all have different names and they all have a different active ability. So, like with a Jin, each Jin has its own active ability. So when you go into combat and you activate the Jin, your character will perform the action that is tied to that Jin. This sometimes allows you to have access to abilities you want to otherwise have. But for example, the first one you get gives you a strong single target high damage move. And when that happens, you put your Jin into standby mode. When they're in standby mode, you can then activate the summon function. And the summon function will use the Jin that are in standby mode and take them out of it back into normal mode. And then when they're in normal mode, you're able to use them again. And you get your stats back. But when they're summoned, the summons that you get are dependent on how many of a specific type are put into standby mode. So you can also put your Jin into standby mode without having to activate the Jin. So what I did was I put all of my Jin into standby mode before going into combat, and then I would start combat by summoning my strongest summons. By the time that everyone has used up their summons, the first few people have had their summons available, their Jin again for activation. So I would just always put my Jin on standby, go into combat, and use summon, which again trivializes the entire system of Jin. But
I agree. Absolutely agree.
you you do? You have no notes on that?
I mean, really, it just lets you do it. I think it's just kind of like...
You shouldn't be able to put them into standby outside of combat. You should
That's
have
why
to use them in combat.
I didn't know that was a thing you could do until you told me, because the way I was using it before was the way I thought it was intended, where you use the ability they have, and by using all the abilities, you stack up like a big attack to use, essentially.
But yeah, you get yourself some pretty big buffs, like attack boosts and defense boosts.
If you think about it that way, like with the Jinn and putting them in standby mode, you're really just like doing Final Fantasy stuff and summoning like, you know, big things right off the bat, which isn't a thing. But then you have to wait like several turns, which may not work until like it may not work. If you know, when we get further into the game, there may be something that will absolutely wreck your shit if you don't have, you know, stuff going off.
Yeah, but we're not going to get to that point because Book's pretty much done.
No, he's not. He's not done. He's never done.
Connie could probably transfer you her save, but you want to have all the Jinn that you have.
Oh no.
Alright, so...
Finito.
Yeah, I never got much into the gen system because, like I said,
it's unnecessarily complicated. I would have just preferred a Final Fantasy job system.
I love it. Perfect.
I might come back to it, maybe
In a while.
in a minute.
I think you'll like the DS one. I think the DS one.
you probably would like it if the save system was a little more reliable for you.
Yes.
It needs an autosave system. All those games should have autosaved, but thankfully, I use Retrobat now, and Retrobat has a automatic save on every 5 minutes.
I think you need to get that for him.
So, Retrobat's great. I love Retrobat.
You should get it for Mabel too, because she struggles with saving, it feels like.
I save a lot, actually.
She saves a lot on handhelds. She doesn't save a lot on physical games.
Okay.
The thing is, I would save scum it during the tree part because I've been kept getting down, right? And I just like,
The tree stage. Good lord, the tree stage.
What else
That
do we
was
have
like
to talk
a
about? What was
fucking-
after?
What was after combat?
We had talked about Jinn, combat, and Psi Energy. What else?
Favorite moments. What is your favorite thing that happened in Golden
Okay,
Sun?
well, I guess let's talk about the negative one since we just were talking about the tree
Okay,
stage.
so challenging moments.
The tree stage. I was saving every time I entered a new room because I was like, I don't know if my characters are gonna live. I need to save because I don't have any life water.
It's a maze. Combat is frequent. So with the tree stage, you're inside of a tree and you're navigating a maze to get higher up in the tree, and then you also go along the branches, which are also maze-like, and you have a limited view range on the tree leaves because you can't see through all the leaves, and then you keep going up and up and up until you get to the peak, and there's a hole for you to jump in, and you land all the way at the bottom of the tree, which is where you want to go. So you had to go all the way up to go back down.
The gimmick is basically you go up and then there's like this little
Hole in the center.
There's a hole in the center that you see in one of the mazes, and you're like, I can't get to that. How do I get to that? And then when you go up another level, there's cobwebs, and then there's leaves that you can jump on.
And then you see that hole again, but you still can't get in it.
You can't. But basically, how the game is teaching you is that the leaves crack when you jump off of them to another leaf, and it's basically telling you to jump back into the middle one so you can fall down all the way.
And the leaf mechanic is only used here.
Yeah.
It has a lot of
it is used in other...
You use a false platform in other ones?
Not a false platform, but there is the jumping puzzle in the
lighthouse.
The lighthouse?
But that's not the same.
No, we're
It's
talking
not the
about platform that falls out from underneath.
Oh yeah, the false. Yeah.
There is. I think they have like these weird gimmicks, and I think there's not a lot of weird gimmicks for. They give you like two back to back. They give you that one, and then the Mercury Lighthouse, and then when you go to Alton Peak to fight the living statues, like there's no other weird gimmick.
Yeah, I actually like the minecart part, but the tree is really annoying because you can fall down. You can fall down and lose progress and have to go all the way back up. So even points where you're like trying to get a chest, you have to fall down after getting the chest.
That's just it.
So you had to climb back up.
Yep.
If you want to get all the items in a specific room, you have to fall and then go back up to get the item and then fall again and then go back up again.
I had an easier time because what I did was I filled up my entire team on herbs before this because they were cheap and I had the money to do it. So I filled up my entire team on herbs. So the biggest problem in this game is endurance. And that's because of the frequency of the combats. You need to have lots of options for healing.
You know what's
That's not that
funny?
bad.
But it's not hard.
You know what's funny? I didn't have any trouble with the tree at all with healing. I didn't use a single herb.
Rook was getting his shit smacked in because Ivan is really weak,
He is.
Yeah.
but Rook didn't also buy better defense items.
I didn't have money for it.
Which is really fun.
I didn't have money for anything until after the tree, and then I was able to buy stuff.
Which is funny because, like, I think you get your, like, first artifact somewhere around there. So, like, if
you get
just...
the bandit sword. That's like the first artifact
Yeah.
you get.
And they didn't explain the artifacts very well either.
They're just weapons and
They're just
items that
weapons
are
with-
special.
Yeah.
They have special attacks that happen when you use the basic attack.
You don't get access to
Exactly.
one until the bandit sword, and then the stores later than that start selling them.
Exactly, and it's like they didn't explain that very well. A, B, it's like a whole other thing on top of having to buy more equipment, more armor, more healing items, all this, that, and the other thing, and it's like it's so much.
Well,
It's so much to keep track of.
it's just a ritual. What I do is if I go to a new area and it has a store, I
I
go to
buy
the
all
store,
the gear.
I look at all the gear, I buy it if it's better, and then I just bounce.
Yeah, I can do that when I have the money for it. If
Buy
I
the
don't
one-
have any money,
Buy the ones
You
that are
know?
incrementally
Man.
better.
Or in real life and poor in a video game. Pick a struggle.
that you keep saying buy the best one.
But you
I
need the
can't
money.
when
I was
don't
level.
have money.
I was level 12 by the time I finished the tree.
Did anyone here ever run from combat?
Yes,
Oh,
I did a couple
tried
times.
to.
I haven't run from a single combat.
I tried to run multiple times, and either it was a coin flip whether I ran or it was like, no, you can't escape. And it's
It's either, I think it's based off your agility. So if your agility is lower, it's gonna be harder and harder to escape. And I think your luck is what
So we can
activates
use
the critical strikes and the weapons like special abilities.
we can use retreat to escape from a dungeon whenever we want, but we can't run from a combat whenever we want.
Again, your agility.
Hmm.
Again, I think it's based off of like
I think they were trying to
average
make
agility.
it. I think they were trying to make it like Dragon Warrior because even like pressing A opens up your menus.
I don't know.
It was trying to be hardcore, and it was very much not hardcore.
Well, it's. I think here's the thing: it's Camelot, and I think SquareSoft may have had some like because it feels like kind of like Final Fantasy and stuff like that
Mhm.
in ways. And I think like Camelot was like, come look SquareSoft, we're doing thing, and then they were like, okay, but you have to do this too, or whatever. Because
This
like
was,
a lot
this
of
was their first RPG, wasn't it?
No, they've done RPGs before. They did non-standard RPGs though, like Mario Golf and Mario Tennis.
But this was like their actual first RPG.
actual RPG.
I don't know.
And then, I mean, a lot of the dungeons are also kind of like weirdly, they give you like gin and good equipment into it, and then like, but you have to kind of like find it.
You have to go out of your way. to
It see,
look for
like
certain
it
things.
really seems like they wanted you to like go around and then fumble around with a lot of stuff.
That's what I did though, and I never had trouble getting through a lot of these dungeons because I was over leveled from just wandering around.
Yeah, I was very over leveled for a lot of it, and I was just kind of like, it's because you keep throwing shit at me.
The
to
world,
fight.
the world map is useless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
trying to
fine.
navigate using the world map
It's
was
like- Okay,
I don't
that
know.
helps.
I
You're
can-
here, and it's like, okay, where's the path to get to this one?
I
Where's
kind of
the
understand
save?
it because like what I do if I only use the walkthrough for the gin to like see where exactly the random encounter ones are.
Yeah.
Because the one I struggled with the one in the desert because it's like the desert looks all the same. I can't tell the difference where I'm at. But the random encounter ones is the only time I've used the little gin like walkthroughs
I found one random encounter. I found two of them actually random encounters.
because they're in specific spots where you have to go and like run around and
until
then
you
fight
get combat.
until you
So
get combat.
about the healing, what?
Which is another thing. Just random gin throughout the world map, but they don't explicitly say, hey, there might be random gin out there.
Yeah,
You-
so
you gotta just travel around and maybe you'll run into
the
it.
way the game introduces you to the djinn, it makes it seem like they are very apparent and in your face. It wasn't until over halfway through that I looked at a walkthrough and realized that a lot of djinn are random encounters on the world map. in specific locations.
There's two. There's two
Before
that are
desert.
specific. Before desert. One at Xi'an, and then one right before the desert.
Okay, but what if they actually appeared on the map?
Yeah.
What if they actually appeared on the map?
Okay.
Like they do in the stages?
It's funny because they're in, like, enclosed areas. Like, they're in, like, why
like a
would I go
bridge.
there areas?
There's like a bridge, and then there's a
They're in
circle.
dead,
There's also-
dead end areas.
There's also a chance to not encounter it, even if you're in the right place. So just put it on the world map.
Honestly, yeah, and again, unless you're like me and you're like, oh, what's over here? And you go over and you're like actively exploring the whole map before you continue on, you're not going to run into them.
I think there was actually some NPCs that kind of give you hints as to where those ones are.
Yeah,
But then you have to talk to all
the turtle shield,
NPCs.
which you get a hint from.
And it's like-
So with the backtracking issue that I had, why so much backtracking, but no way to fast travel between towns?
Again, it's... I mean, there wasn't really fast travel back in,
Pokemon.
Fly, but you had...
You didn't get that until
But
like
that was,
way
like-
late.
Second or third gen when we got that.
Yeah, that was... I mean, that's it. Like, and fly for, like, a
Final
Pokemon...
Fantasy had the airships.
Is it airship, though?
That's still faster than walking.
Also, Pokemon had like shortcuts you could go through. There are no shortcuts in this game.
Well, now...
You have to go all the way around.
The funny thing is...
There's a shortcut after you beat the desert that lets you get
Yes.
back to...
Yes.
Yes.
Oh
Kalima.
boy! I'm not gonna get there. Why not throughout the whole game, not just after this?
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
It rewards people who are dedicated to the game.
I want to talk to the person at Camelot who decided that revive items needed to be so rare.
Oh, it's funny that you talk about that is because, you have quartz, which is kind of funny because Rook was having such a bad time with quartz.
It's like 50-50 with quartz. It's like, I used it twice.
Quartz can revive people?
Yes.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes,
It's
it says
revive a
it's just
down
revive
ally.
the down, but
Is quartz one you start with?
no.
Okay, that's why, because I didn't have quartz.
Quartz is... Where the fuck it? Quartz is the random encounter one, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I had quartz. So, even worse, something integral like that, something key, is 50-50, and you have to find it in a random encounter.
But I didn't have a one-time... I didn't have
Why
a single
can't we
chance.
buy Phoenix Downs at a store
Why
like
can't
every
we
other
just buy...
game?
Well, hold on.
Because you have to go to the priest and revive your dude.
They want you to go to towns. They want you to
Yeah,
interact
like-
with people.
Like old RPGs, and that's what I was saying. They wanted to be hardcore, but it's not hard enough to be hardcore.
Well, I mean, if you're getting body, I'm sorry, you're built dumb.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I don't have quartz.
We're
Yeah,
absolutely offended by that.
I could kill you and feel nothing right
yeah,
now.
you don't. Wow, that's crazy. And you're 17, and you've only got you should at this point
I'm a
have
higher level than
444.
that.
You should at this point have 444.
I do have 444 on PC. That's my older save. But we talked about the inventory system being incredibly annoying.
Yes.
That it shouldn't be 4 separate inventories. It should be each has an equipment page and then items. I get that they wanted to do something different, but different doesn't mean good.
Or they should just have... oh, she's getting angry. Or...
She's bouncing her leg like she's angry.
They should just have, slots around your character, like every other thing, where it's like, oh, put your helmet here, shield there, a weapon there, instead of, oh, you want to equip all of these? Okay, they're going to take up slots in your inventory. And I want to reiterate, I understand, like, the inventory, like, I get the story behind it, because, like, Garrett wanted to take all of his stuff in the beginning, and it's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You have limited slots, right?
And I get it that it's supposed to be a hardcore aspect because you're not able to carry absolutely everything in real life. Like in D&D, everyone has their own inventory pages and a weight limit. I get that you're not supposed to be able to actually carry all those things. But also, it's a video game, just let me do it.
Well, again, there's not.
It's
really,
like durability
there's not really
meters
that
on
much,
weapons.
unless you're whoring all the damn artifact weapons for yourself.
What if I want to do that? What if I want to have
They're
a lot
shit.
of artifact weapons?
A lot of them are shit. You don't
You get better ones.
You
actually.
don't get good ones until like Kayleigh, where
Here's a rare special weapon that
Like-
fires ice when you attack.
Tamagotchi screaming, "Why is mommy and daddy fighting?"
Here's a rare ice weapon that shoots ice crystals when you attack it. you're gonna replace that soon, and it's gonna be just thrown in the garbage. You're just gonna sell it to some dude.
Yeah. So, like,
because they sell for like a shit ton.
But also, like, if I get something rare, I want to hang on to it.
It's a good filler for when, like, you don't have money and you get it, Mr. Broke Ass, and you don't have to go to, like, because some of the, like, there's, like, it's, like, 2 stores and they sell the same thing, and then you get to the 3rd one and then they sell new equipment. By then, you should have money to buy it. And by then, the 2 stores where things are getting harder, you have the Arctic Blade, which does significantly more damage. By the time you get to the 3rd one, you're like, well, I can sell this one, get a lot of money back, and still have my Claymore, and have Garrett have a Claymore, and then I can also buy the artifacts with, like, the Psi Energy Rod for Mia and shit like that.
I get that they don't want you to hoard items like you do in other RPGs. Like, in other RPGs, you get a lot of items like fire crystals that let you cast a fire spell or something.
Also...
And people tend to hoard those.
Also... Give me another chance. If you go to the artifact page in any of the stores, and when you sell those artifacts, they are there. You can buy them back.
Yeah, I know, but maybe I just want to hang on to them.
At a higher price, also.
At a higher price, but money's infinite in this game. Economies have crashed.
Also, the gen system would matter more if we had something like Scan or Libra, where we could see the enemy stats, so that I could see what they're weak to and take advantage of that and know that I'm supposed to use this during this time.
Yeah, that's another thing. We're just supposed to guess what they're...
I don't know. I don't think they have...
It's not like Pokemon rules where it's like, oh, this is weak against this.
Where it's an obvious weakness thing. But I'm not saying that. I understand that JRPGs have to keep a lot of information from the player in order to make it interesting. But I'm just saying I want an ability like Scan or Libra where I can check what they're weak to. As an option. If I want to waste a turn to see that, let me.
All the bosses are... You can't put anything on the boss. Like, I think that's just, like, almost in every RPG.
That's every JRPG. You can't put status ailments on bosses.
Status ailments on the bosses, so it doesn't really matter.
But I also want to know what ability is most effective against them.
But, like, I mean, when you're doing, like, over, like, 300, 400 damage to the bosses, it really doesn't matter at that point, because, like, the devil boss hit Garrett with, like, Doom, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, by the time he hit it, he had like 46 HP left, and of course, like, you know, the game was like, you probably should heal him. I fucking bodied him with like 5 different summons at the time. So it's like, it's really not that hard. It's not that hard of a game. Like,
no, it's very easy, which is also why the gen system doesn't get a chance to shine.
But I think, again, we stopped just after maybe the hardest boss.
Just after halfway through.
The hardest boss that it gave you, where it could kill a character instantly after 4 turns. So if you weren't, you know, big braining it and not, you know, schmat talking everything in the fucking area.
Are you talking about Doom?
Yeah,
Okay, I had no idea what that did.
Yeah. So the little wicks that it gives on your character, the 4 wicks, basically they extinguish after each turn.
It's true in Final Fantasy as well. It's called Doom, and it does a countdown, and when it hits 0, your character's dead.
I knew that because of Final Fantasy 14.
But again, also, another mechanic we haven't got to is equipment breaking.
Yeah.
I've had that happen once with the Ring of Healing.
Yeah, it has a chance to break it.
And I hate weapon durability. Weapon durability is the worst mechanic.
It's not a weapon durability.
It's not a durability, it's just a chance.
It's a thing that happens from certain enemies, which we haven't even gotten to. I don't know when it happens, but also your character can be possessed.
What you're making it sound like is that the game is really easy until the very end, and then there's a difficulty spike.
It might be. I don't know, because
she's never gotten that far.
I've never gotten that far. The game is such an enigma, and that's why I love it, because it's so weird.
It likes to feed you like bits at a time.
We're an hour and a half in, and we are only talking about the first half of the game. Are we going to have to do a part 2?
I feel like we have to.
We have to do a part 2 because we didn't beat it. Rooks, most of the games are obviously we're going to end up talking about the end of Pink Panther because we're going to beat it because it's 2 hours long.
A lot of the games that we're doing are going to be very short ones so that we can get a lot of episodes.
It's going to be very funny. I hope we play Maximo soon because it's going to be very funny. Maximo, oh my god, I cannot wait.
Now let's talk about our favorite part. Well, go through y'all's books real quick, double check, make sure there's not anything else negative that you want to talk about.
I think we covered everything.
I will say the mimics are a fun little twist on some of the loot that you find.
Yeah, I didn't mind them.
Those were fun. Just like
Fun little mini bosses.
I didn't know the mimics were in there, and I encountered one. And I was like, "Whoa, holy shit!"
yeah,
because
because I was like,
cool.
oh look, a cool item, and then suddenly it's a mimic boss, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah,
And
it
then
pops
the-
up and it goes, and then you're
Yeah, I was like,
And then you beat the mimic, and then the mimic gives you like the garbagest item. Like you kill one and you get a nut.
well, it also gives you a ton of money and experience.
Yeah.
yeah, you get a ton of experience. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Favorite parts.
Start with Rook first, because I feel like it'd be
Yeah.
funny.
What did you like?
I liked stopping.
That's crazy.
No,
Get him off the podcast. He's out of here.
hold on. I was somewhat enjoying the story.
It does have a very
I wish it elaborated more on the world and less on
Yes.
what we were currently doing.
Yes, like I enjoyed, that little twist at the beginning. A little weird that they did one of the twists at
yeah,
the
that's what it says
beginning
in the beginning.
and not saved it for middle
Also,
end.
I want to know who the hell Sataros is, because Sataros and his gal pal look very different from everybody else.
Yeah, it's like
I
want to
know what their deal is. Yeah, they have like a different skin tone, like a
They're blue and
bluish,
pink.
right?
And like, are you
I think it's
from
paint or something
Mars?
like that, or-
why are you?
There's even the fight that happened at the lighthouse where you fight Sataros, and he's like, I would have beaten you if I was at my full power. And you're like,
it's like,
Yeah, why is he weakened
What?
by the elements?
that was the thing that got
Yeah.
me really... Sorry.
Damn, y'all missed that point. He's opposite of what he's fire.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was
And-
fire.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He is a Mars one.
He's a Mars adept, where the lighthouse is Mercury.
So would that have made Garrett weaker then?
I
I wasn't
really
big-
don't know if there is
Her name is Minardi.
Minardi. Yeah, okay.
Menards.
Minardi and
That is such an
Saros.
awful name to remember.
But
Mardi Gras. I don't know.
Minardi.
that's the reason is they lit it, and since the Mars adept. But the thing is I don't think there's an actual like.
Sataros is from a
Gameplay.
different country. That's why his skin is that color.
That doesn't make any sense.
He's from a country. He's from a.
spoiled it.
He's just from a town called Prox. That's all I know. That comes from the northmost
They
part
all
of the map.
blue and Brox?
It says northmost, so he's probably freezing his
I've
ass off
also
and turning
played Dark
blue that way.
Dawn, so I know a little more.
Yeah, since the characters that we play in this one are reoccurring characters in other games.
I didn't even know there were other games.
Yeah,
This is the
there's-
first time I've
there's
heard
two
of
other
any-
games.
It's not
This
like
is
Final
the first
Fantasy
one. Lost Age is a
sequel.
sequel / expansion because you can bring over your Jin in that one from the from Golden Age.
Yeah,
but Dark
I'm
Dawn
excited to start with a lot
is
of
an
Jin.
actual sequel that takes place years after this.
Yeah, and they're real connected sequels, not like Final Fantasy. They're real, genuine connected sequels.
So it's a story that you're going to be buckling in for.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite part, Connie?
That's really hard for me to answer because, like, I'm still enjoying the game. Like, even with, like, the random encounters and the frustration.
Connie's had nothing but nice things to say, other than like the things that we all pretty unanimously agree is bad.
My frustration mostly just comes from the issues I'm having with the hardware, not so much the game itself.
Yes, it's technically impressive, but it's also behind it all. All right, Mabel, what's your favorite thing?
I have a soft spot for, like, old RPGs.
You want me to talk about my favorite thing?
Yeah.
When you change your first party character to a different character, so that when Isaac grabs something, he has to hand the item over to that character because they're the first slot one. So when Isaac opens up a chest and gets a nut, it says, Isaac gave me a nut.
Isaac gave Ivan a
Won't be
nut.
the only nut.
And that's my favorite part, is when Isaac gives Mia his nut.
Funny.
Really?
Won't be.
Nothing about, like,
Won't be a nut.
gameplay, story, world
I mean,
building.
Won't be
It's
the only nut.
It's a pretty standard RPG. I played a lot of JRPGs. It's pretty standard.
Yeah, but there's nothing
think-
quite like your first one.
The people who are, like, choking on it, the people who are glazing it up, it's probably their first RPG.
Don't say that. You're 33. Don't say that.
You shit the
Yeah.
Was it your first RPG, Mabel? I think it's the Final Fantasy problem. The people who love it the most, who are all about it, it's because it was their first game. Their first RPG.
I don't think it was my first RPG.
Pretty close, though, right? Because I like Final Fantasy a lot, and Final Fantasy was my first RPG.
I never
besides
played Final
Pokemon.
Fantasy really until like 14 came out.
I really played I didn't even know it was an RPG back then. I wasn't even paying attention to most of the stuff. I was
As a genre, I didn't even know.
Yeah, that also speaks to the game that you can ignore the fact that it's an RPG.
I just like how unique the synergy thing is. I've never seen that in another game.
The
but
puzzles are neat.
I don't really care for the puzzles.
I like the puzzles.
Is that really the only thing?
No, I like the puzzles. I like the universe. I wish it talked more about the universe. I want to know more about the Soul Sanctum stuff. I don't care so much about the story, about the characters that's going on right now. And I wish Isaac talked.
Yeah. Also, they talk about the sun and the Soul Sanctum, but then they just don't.
Yeah, we never hear mention of the sun again. And it's clearly the name for the series.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to become more relevant.
They're like, we get our power from the sun, and then it's just that's it.
And the game feels really directionless, and I don't like that. I kind of wish it did funnel me down a little more.
I like the lack of direction.
I like the openness, but I don't like wandering. Combat is just okay. It's just Final Fantasy combat. And I like it when Isaac gives me his nut.
I would like to add, I do like the sprite work. The sprite work is very good.
Yes, it's technically impressive. Technically, as in technologically. Okay.
All right,
I think it's impressive for the time.
My favorite part? The game, baby.
We have the two polar opposites here.
The game is my favorite part.
Mabel loves the whole thing, and Rook doesn't like it at all.
The thing that stuck at me when I was a little babby, and I booted up my GBA, plugged this bad boy in for the first time, and I got into my first fight, and then the song booted up.
The combat does do that. There's a and then it goes into the fight.
And for some reason the living statues also make the same noise.
Yeah, I don't know.
They just go and then you're like, oh, what the fuck?
Let me do that real quick. I'll get into a combat real quick and
but then
I'll
and then you hear that and then you hear that. It's
the music is pretty
banger. But again, the biggest downside is it's literally the only combat track ever in the game. I don't know why.
Track, and it's
oh, here it comes.
You might need to get a little closer.
The monsters roaring or something as they attack.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be them jumping out and surprising you Rah! But the game sound is very nostalgic too. I love how nostalgic it sounds.
It's very nostalgic.
I felt nostalgic for it even though I actually haven't played it. So hearing the combat noises, the bloop, bloop noise from confirming things, super nostalgic.
I think as Golden Sun ages, I think it is the best RPG out of all of them on the older systems. I think
you made Sarah just
because as a person who grew up around Pokemon, never played the older Pokemon. Never.
Oh, you would have hated it.
But again, I would have hated it because
of the pacing.
Because of the pacing, the design of everything. To me, the music is just. I hate Pokemon music.
I don't like fantasy.
Pokemon fans will be like, "This is this banger" when the gym starts down and it's just like, and I'm like, get this trash out of here. Do not plug the aux cord in. Get the fuck out of my car.
You have to listen to the Hoenn region because it's trumpets galore. It's amazing. I love it.
I hate it. It's so bad. I hate everything about Pokemon so much.
We're getting off topic here.
No, but okay. That's the thing, though. Is it might seem like I'm glazing this game up, but it was on the GBA, and you had stuff like Final Fantasy. I never played it, but I also played it when I was older. So, I was able to understand it. So I had no negatives about Final Fantasy. But again, Golden Sun just hits good. Hits so good. It might have its weird little flaws, but the design of it is so good. Final Fantasy, you watch little sprite characters go, great job! And it's like...
To be fair, though, Final Fantasy is a lot older.
It is a lot older, which is the issue. But again...
When I started getting into RPGs, it was already a dying genre, kinda. It was, you know how the new Final Fantasies are kind of just
It's because they take too long to make and no one wants to put the money into it.
They take too long to make, and then also it feels like they're trying to direct you to certain places, and it doesn't reward your exploring, which that's a big problem with RPGs nowadays for me. They don't reward exploring, and that's something I like to do. Playing Golden Sun, I really enjoy it because it rewards me for exploring, and that's something that I like out of Golden Sun is the exploration, for like being rewarded for that. Whereas like games like Breath of the Wild and stuff like that nowadays, or like the new Legend of Zelda games, you can run around like random places. You'll see like monuments and stuff, and you'll go explore them, but then you get nothing for it, and you're like, why the hell did I even do this?
Again, well, those kind of experiences aren't like honed down to the point where like I said, Golden Sun has its issues.
Oh yeah, no,
it's not like I'm the world's biggest Golden Sun glazer, but again, like the charm of it is really good.
Even though you started the podcast,
he started the podcast like that, but now you're like, well, actually, I'm not the biggest one.
I'm probably not the biggest one. There's probably someone out here who's like probably done like.
There's probably some people.
What's that Reddit called? Jizzy carts. r/Jizzy cards. So yeah, there's probably someone doing cum tributes on their Golden Sun.
Oh my god.
It's good. It's good. Like, even though it's like sometimes all over the place, game's so good, it got 3. It got 3 Golden Sun.
But
how it gonna be bad if it got 3?
How many does Pokemon have?
Too many.
Yeah, but Pokemon.
What was the fact about it being on Switch and it runs poorly and also is shit?
It does run poorly.
It does, because the Switch is a bad console, and that's going to upset people too.
Oh, Nintendo bad, maybe.
Old hardware
and
outdated hardware, and no one can utilize it correctly because everyone's just trying to put their game on it because everyone will buy it because it's the Switch.
Golden
They're
Sun
not
stopped
worrying about
good.
making it
Pokemon should have done the same. Should have fucking necked
Also,
itself.
Switch's licensing fee is way too high, and it makes people not want to buy cartridges. So it results in bad games that way too, because people cheap out. Yeah, there's definitely some people out there, Maple, that are bigger fans of it than you, and there are going to be people who are going to hear me and Rook talking shit about it, and they're going to be really upset. Because there are some people that this game is their personality.
Don't worry, I'll send the address so they can send you a pipe bomb.
What the fuck?
You're here too.
I'll be away from the pipe bomb. You're going to open up a package and you're going to look behind you and see me in an EOD suit.
And we'll be like, oh, okay, that's why we got an Amazon delivery for an EOD suit like 2 weeks ago.
Can we talk about the things we hate about it now?
We already did.
We already did.
We did that.
No. I didn't.
Yeah,
I said I talked about things I liked about it.
Okay, we'll talk about the things
what
you
were the
hate
things
about
you
it.
liked about it? Because you were just...
I said art. The art, the story.
How you were both little
It was
bits.
easy.
Mabel.
Rook, go ahead and talk about what you hate about it. Just
say it.
as hard as possible.
It fucking reeks ass. It fucking reeks. The gen system is overly complicated for something that's supposed to be a fun little game. And it's like, okay, I guess. And then it's like, oh, but if you don't mix and match, you don't get certain special...
The game can't decide if it wants to be hard or not.
Yeah, exactly. It can't decide if it wants to be hard, if it wants to be easy. So it's just like, guess. And then, like, vague hints of where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, and nothing is, like, set, like,
It's
in
off brand,
stone.
I left it out for a bit.
Nothing is set in, like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. Not like a little hint or anything.
So much dialogue, so much
fucking
talking.
dialogue. And then being forced to talk to other people, like, in every town you go to.
Every single person.
Just to get, like, an inch, a crumb of what you're supposed to do.
That's what I like about
it.
That's the part I like about the game. I like getting hints of where to go.
Connie likes cock and ball torture because she's played RuneScape.
I hate
Well, that's what you do in RuneScape. You get hints on what you're supposed to do, and then you're supposed to do them.
Now, in RuneScape, you hit trees for 1,000 hours until you hit 99.
She has never done a quest in RuneScape.
But that's kind of true. You do hit trees like until you're like 99, and some quest givers like the tree of Mishima.
Okay, but the tree cutting in that game, like, it's very inconsequential, like, to the rest of the game.
Alright, what else?
And that's a whole different story there.
I just wish I'm here. I talk about I don't like games being hand-holdy. I wish it held my hand a little more. You know what I mean? Like when I'm crossing the f***ing street.
You're one of those
I'm like, can you hold my hand? And they're like, nope, and they throw me into oncoming traffic.
You're one of those people who complain about the yellow paint, but then when the yellow paint's not there, you're like, I need it.
No. Absolutely not. I enjoy my yellow paint. I'm there with the paintbrush going like, go here.
Rook's there, fucking #1 yellow paint eater.
Yeah.
I hope there's lead in this.
God, I hope there's lead.
No. I just wish it held my hand a little more. Instead of just like, go there, I guess.
I have never played a game that is so short but
right
feels
here.
so long.
There are kids in this world who have only huffed the yellow paint, but there are kids in this world who eat the yellow paint, and Rook is one of them.
Nummy. I love how it makes my insides feel.
The child leash was made for you.
Alright.
Little sassy
Are
monkey.
you done, Benton?
Sassy
Yes.
monkey child
Okay.
leash.
Yes, I am done.
Yes, but the game is somehow the shortest JRPG that I've ever played, but also feels the longest.
That's because it's such an experience.
It's
baby.
a good bang for your buck, I'd say.
It sticks.
And that's just it. We played it.
For, like, what, 10 hours minimum?
No,
I
we
think
played it for free.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, I hit it for 15 hours. Alright, so the next thing. What would you change?
Like I said, more.
Pick one thing.
One thing.
A little more direction on where you're supposed to go. And
Yeah.
not just, hey, go around here somewhere. Okay, where? I don't know. Look. I guess. Just look.
I would like 0 backtracking. I can put up with everything else the game has. Get rid of the backtracking.
I don't know. I think, like, saying what I would change just kind of, like, sours the image of it, but, like,
You can have issues with your favorite game.
I don't know. It's not like I have, like, major issues with the game. It's just, I would like more music for the game.
It does need more music.
I would like more music.
One battle track is a little bad.
Yeah.
I would like more music, but, I mean, the other thing is, like, the backtracking is, like, they were trying to make a world for you to explore, is what I find.
But the world
And
isn't.
I understand.
It's not exploring the world because I don't get any lore for that world.
Well, it wants you to look like a world that you're exploring, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
is that,
but also, what is there to explore? The game is so empty. Alright,
There's
Connie,
water.
what would you change?
You know, I don't feel like I've experienced it enough to determine what
Yep.
needs to be changed, really, just yet, but,
What's the thing you dislike about it the most?
well, my issue was the hardware, but
Now, yeah, you can't blame Golden Sun for that. That's a hard.
I know. So that's the... I'd say it's probably just getting from place to place can be a little difficult.
the trek is a little long. I think
The
I think a lot of the hallways are
It's very unnecessary long in some
Don't
areas.
get rid of the backtracking. Put in an airship.
airship. Make it Final Fantasy. Kind of.
The encounters, I'd say I'd fixed. That's one thing.
Sarah's saying make it Final Fantasy.
No, there
Connie-
needs to be a way to get around the map
Kind of
faster.
wants it to be RuneScape with Jin.
I just want the game to let me get around faster, you know? Fast travel.
Yeah, like I want a more smooth travel system. Like
I mean, yeah, it would be nice. A lot of the
be able to get from place to place with relatively ease, you know. You can throw in a couple encounters, obviously, but don't make it like every 5 seconds.
I mean, if you think about it in a way, in terms, it does make kind of like a circle, except like when you go to Tret and stuff like that. Like, if you were to go straight to Mercury Lighthouse and then go down, you could kind of make it into
Alright.
like a complete circle, but
Let's give our ratings and our final thoughts and then wrap it up because we are 8 minutes from 2 hours. So let's give our final thoughts on it. We'll give a star rating. What do you want to do? 0 through 10 or
I want to do
0
out of
through
10.
out of 10.
Out
Out of 10?
Out of 10?
Out of
Okay.
10. Okay. Brooke, go ahead.
I'm gonna give it out of 10.
Yeah.
I'll give it a fair rating of 5.5.
That's a fair one.
Yes,
5.5.
that's fair for me because I was not having very much fun playing it
Okay.
because of the reasons that I had given.
Okay.
All right, Connie, what's your rating?
I'm gonna say like an 8.75.
Okay, Mabel?
Maybe like
Yeah.
an 8.5.
No.
Because again, Glazer, or you.
Just gonna say 10 out of 10.
Are you gonna say 10 out of 10?
What are you doing?
No, don't be delusional
Come on.
about it. No game is a 10 out of a 10.
Come on. I give games 10 out of 10 all the time. You don't need that.
I think it's a 7. 7 is still a good game. I'd say 6 is playable. But 7 is still a good game. It's not a great game. I think there's a lot of JRPGs that are all very similar, and I can think of several on the Game Boy Advance that are better, like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Did you take your crazy pills today?
Alright, and what's your rating, Mabel?
Mine. I want to give it I think I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Really? I got the highest one.
What kept you from giving it a 10?
I can't think of it. Well, it's not a 10.
It's not a 10.
That's
No
not a
game's a
10.
10.
Okay. Why 8.7 specifically? That's such a weird specific number.
I wanted to say 9, but then also I didn't want to give it 8 because it felt
Why
low.
points in general? Why are y'all doing decimal points for it?
Because I'm freaky like that, you know.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean 7. I meant 7.1130.
Okay.
I'm
9.
just doing out of 0.5.
Yeah, I just said 0.5. That's all I did. I
She's
gave it
the
a
one with 0.7 over here. I don't know what the she doing.
Okay.
It's closer to a 9 for me, but it's still not
What?
there.
Alright, I think we've done everything we came here to do.
Because next time on Experience Shared, we'll be playing The Lost Age, Golden Sun.
No.
No,
We hardly had the time for this.
We need to finish
You're right,
the
we're
first
playing
one.
Maximo.
No, the next one is someone else's
flipped it.
pick. We would normally do a viewer interaction section in the middle of it, but we didn't do that because it just started. There's no viewer interaction to be had yet.
We
So,
have no viewers, we're broke.
so comment something, and maybe we'll read it.
Can you comment on Spotify?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can comment on Spotify. Well, you can ask questions on Spotify. I don't know if you can comment.
Dude, you better not have
But
dingleberries.
you can comment on YouTube, and it's going to be posted on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay.
And you can also join the Discord, bit.ly/SeraProtoD, capital S, capital P, capital D. And in there, there's a group of chats for Experience Shared
I
where
don't
you
do
can
that,
comment
I'll make
your
them throw up.
thoughts and your reviews and stuff like that. So we always post what game we're going to play a week before we upload it, so that you can decide whether so that you have a chance to play it and review it as well. So next week,
Don't let
Wow.
him step on the keyboard.
I'm trying not to.
all right, next video, Bo, is Pink Panther Hocus Pocus Pink, which is the second Pink Panther game on MS-DOS.
Nah, it's of Ghost and Glory Maximo.
It's a point-and-click adventure.
It's basically you play as the Pink Panther, like Sarah said, and you are a door-to-door salesman, and you happen upon this party happening at someone's mansion, and you are trying to sell your, I forget what it is, it's some sort of book, and you interrupt a play date between these two children where one accidentally turns the other one into a big scary monster. And the children are like, you have to help us change her back, or we're going to take all the words out of your book and you'll never be able to get them again.
They took the words out already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's you going around finding out how to change this little kid back into, human.
Alright.
We need to end this.
Alright,
We
so
gotta stop Bo's-
do y'all have anything you want to plug?
No.
Okay.
Y'all can pick me up at Blue Sky at Impa My goodness.
You can also find me at Blue Sky at Sera's Things. You can also find me on YouTube at Sera's Things, and you can find my second YouTube, Sera Second Disc. And Connie, do you have anything you want to plug?
I already said no.
Okay. And Brooke?
I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky under That Of Dog or That Of Dog Art.
So next is the Patreon read.
Thank you to Mommy Milkers 505.
Thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members. If you want to join them, check them out on patreon.com/Sera's Things, where you can help support me for just $1. Thanks again to Nat, Selena, Marius, Yini, Worm Syrup, Radiante, Rask, Ver, Wild Kitty 69, Beef, Bait, Sly, Colorado Blue, Vaderson, Linky, Splackjack, and Malding Brick. Oh yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that stuff. It's different per each platform, so just, you know what I'm talking about. Leave a rating, leave a comment, subscribe or follow it for more. we'll see you all next time with Pink Panther 2 Hocus Pocus Pink on MS-DOS. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Say bye, Bo.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh man, talking cat.
Oh shit.
We're rich.
You didn't pause it.
And fuck